My wife must be adding a musical intro to this video, but that's a lie, okay? It didn't go so well for several reasons. Stitching leather. Now, don't get me wrong. The thickness is really not an issue. The needle was punching through the leather material quite easily. Now, leather has two sides, right? The useful side, and then there's this back side, which is kind of fuzzy. The stickiest material on earth, right? It gets stuck to the needle plate. It's a real pain stitching it this way. They should really make brake pads out of this stuff, you know. It'll work fine, I think. And I can live with that. I can apply some, some paper as a backing, and it'll help it slide along the needle plate. But oh no, that's not all. The other side, the slickest material I've ever seen. Again, they should line forget babbit metal. They should line bearing with this stuff. When you stitch it this way, where we have the top surface and a fabric, they don't stick. The fabric stays behind, and this one keeps going. It took me. It was let me say it was painfully slow and mind-numbingly tedious. Okay, to complete this, and see. When you stitch fabric and you go wrong somewhere, like for example this one, I have a stitch line here which I need to remove. It's pretty easy. You just take a standard seam ripper and you can remove them fairly quickly. And here you can see that I have removed it, and you could not really tell that there's a pre-existing stitch there, right? Not with leather. With leather, if you do something wrong, then God forbid you have to throw away that piece, because it leaves these nasty holes once you remove the stitches. So this cannot be used ever again. So that's why I have lots of pieces which I made and then realized I did a small mistake and I have to start all over. So coming back to the subject of the video, I'm actually trying to make a lady's purse out of leather. I've been working on this for the greater part of 4 days spread over 2 weekends. So part 1 of the video is already out. I suggest you can have a look at it. In the last video, what I did was I made the primary panels for the bag, which consisted of the fabric core, a lining material, and the outer leather. It's still missing the shoulder strap and the side panels and the internal compartment, which I have to tackle in this video. And please do stick around to the end of the video to find out how the final bag turned out to be. Okay, let's get started. Okay guys, let's start by first making the central divider for the bag. Now case in point, I did note down the dimensions in my initial pattern, but I try to always cross check on the actual piece so that my dimensions are correct. So the way this is done actually is, this is the lining material, and the final dimensions of that divider is what you get when you fold it in half. So I'm only keeping seam allowance on 3 sides. Yeah, there you go. And what you will see me sandwiching over here is basically the core, the cotton duck core, which the bag is made out of. A little ironing to keep all the seams in place. I should really get one of those steam irons, right? When you're folding the hems and what you want them to be in place, you shouldn't use a dry iron. You should use a steam iron. But anyway, got to get myself one of those. Here I am actually stitching all the hems in place. Again, I'm using quite a thick gauge of thread. It's actually back closing thread. I believe it's a 110 size needle. I wonder why my camera keeps defocusing time and again. Really annoying. Okay, there you go. So all the sides have been taken care of. I finished the piece off by drawing a 45-degree quilting pattern all throughout. I wanted the central divider to have a small pocket to keep either loose change or maybe my glasses. That's how the pocket is going to fit. The Egyptian cotton lining obviously will require a seam allowance on all four sides. And the inner lining for this pocket I am making out of Thai silk. That's what you see me cutting over here. You'll notice here that I am drawing a quilting pattern only connecting the cotton duck and the Egyptian cotton lining material. I am not stitching the silk right now. I have connected the silk only at the edges and I am turning it inside out to make the final pocket. I did this technique because I didn't want the quilting stitches to be visible through the silk. I wanted the silk to remain pristine and unstitched. And finally it was time to connect the pocket along with the central divider. Focus, damn it. You'll notice that I have done some zigzag strengthening stitches at the corners of the pocket and it's silk inside. I generally don't like using cardboard or paper templates for my stitching projects. I don't think it's worth the hassle, but in this case, given the curves that I need to recreate, I actually did make a template. These will actually become the side panels of the bag. The main cotton duck, you will notice that I am keeping a generous 1-inch seam allowance at the top. And that's because I'll need to roll over a hem over there. Then what you got to do is you got to connect the central divider along with the side panels and make a stitch run right there. Make sure you orient it properly and you mark out exactly how long your stitch needs to be. Again, this is leather, so if you go wrong, you cannot correct yourself. Okay, the side panels needs to be connected to the remainder of the bag, and this is the trickiest part of the build. You have to make sure that the side panel fabric is sandwiched between the leather piece and the inner backing material, and then you need to hand stitch this all the way through. I try to figure out what exact order of operation I need to have so that I can use a sewing machine to do this. Unfortunately, I was not able to, so it was a needle and a thread and hand stitching for me. Do let me know if you have a better technique. Yeah, it was exactly like nailing jello to a wall or trying to stitch jello. It kept moving on me and it took a long time. I think it was the spirit of the dead code that was cursing me. All the strapping material that I have is made out of cheap nylon or polypropylene. I really don't like that, so I folded over my cotton duck material 4 times to make the webbing. In hindsight, it was a little thicker than I would have liked, but I like the strength that it gives, so it's okay. Tell you what, I was really happy to sew some fabric rather than leather. So much easier. There is the completed shoulder strap. These two are basically the D-rings that goes on the sides of the bag, which will be hooked to the shoulder strap. And oh my god, finally, after a lot of frustration and a lot of cursing, this project comes to an end. Okay, so finally it's complete. I know there are some comments in my video which says that, especially the last one, which says that I should hand stitch this thing with wax thread. Yeah, okay, I didn't do that. That's fine. It definitely turned out okay. It's not as pretty as I wanted it to be, but still it's good enough to give to my wife, I think. I'll tell you what. How do I put this here? This thing is built like a tank, okay? I think it will last at least 20 years and then some. It's very beefy, it's slightly heavy-ish, and wish me luck. I'm going to go give this to my wife. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Hopefully I will see you next time. Goodbye.